A turbocharger is sitting in a workshop in Maranello. It has never turned a wheel in a Grand Prix. And yet Ferrari's engineers believe that single component could decide the outcome of the 2026 Formula One season. Right now, Mercedes leads the Constructors' Championship with 333 points, holding a 78-point advantage over Ferrari, who sits second on 255 points. In the Drivers' Championship, Kimi Antonelli leads with 179 points, with teammate George Russell second on 154 points, a gap of 25 points. Lewis Hamilton sits third for Ferrari on 147 points, just 32 points off the lead, while Charles Leclerc has climbed to fourth on 108 points after his British Grand Prix victory. None of those totals include a single lap from the part now being built in Ferrari's engine department. That part doesn't close the gap. According to Ferrari's own internal targets, it is designed to erase it. 9 rounds into the 2026 season, this has become a two-team fight at the front, with one dramatic absence from the conversation: Max Verstappen. The 4-time champion sits 7th in the standings with 76 points, a staggering 78 points behind Russell in second. Verstappen's Red Bull contract reportedly contains a performance clause allowing him to explore an exit if he isn't inside the top 2 of the championship by the summer break. Following his retirement at the British Grand Prix, that scenario became mathematically impossible. A driver who won 4 consecutive world titles between 2021 and 2024 is now, by the numbers, out of this year's title fight entirely. While the drivers' battle has tightened dramatically at the top, with Antonelli's cushion shrinking from 66 points 3 races ago, in his own words, down to just 25, the constructors' picture tells a steadier story. Mercedes' 78-point lead over Ferrari remains substantial. This is a fight with 2 very different timelines: a drivers' championship that is closing fast, and a constructors' championship that Ferrari still has serious ground to make up. Ferrari's season has had one consistent identity. In the corners, the car has been exceptional. On the straights, it has bled time. Lando Norris, McLaren's reigning world champion, put it plainly after finishing behind Ferrari at the Spanish Grand Prix. They're the class of the field in terms of cornering performance at the minute, and we're not even close to them. That single sentence, from a title-winning rival with no reason to inflate Ferrari's case, sums up the season's core tension. The flip side of that praise is a power unit that has been measured as more than 4% down on the FIA's technical benchmark. Reports place the shortfall around 20 to 30 horsepower compared with Mercedes' latest specification. This isn't a car with a scattering of small problems. It's a car with one specific, identifiable weakness, which is exactly why fixing that single weakness carries so much potential upside. Antonelli's admission that his lead shrank from 66 points to 25 points in 3 races happened before Ferrari's engine upgrade had even landed. Ferrari introduced its first ADUO-linked power unit upgrade at the Austrian Grand Prix, delivering an estimated 4 to 5 horsepower from combustion changes and a further 2 to 3 horsepower from a revised fuel compound. Modest gains, worth roughly 1/10 of a second per lap at the Red Bull Ring. If a car with a genuine power deficit could produce a swing of that size, the question Ferrari's rivals are now asking is straightforward: what happens once the deficit itself is gone? The clearest evidence that Ferrari's chassis advantage is real, not theoretical, came at the Spanish Grand Prix in June. Hamilton claimed his maiden win in Ferrari colors, beating Russell by 19.561 seconds and ending Mercedes' unbeaten run through the opening 6 races of the season. Ferrari arrived in Barcelona with an 8-part aerodynamic upgrade targeting the front wing, floor, and side pods, and the results showed immediately. Hamilton controlled the race from the front, aided by a well-timed virtual safety car, while Norris trailed nearly 24 seconds behind in third. It was Ferrari's first Grand Prix victory since Mexico City in 2024. What made the result more alarming for Mercedes wasn't just the margin. It was who was issuing the warning afterward. Antonelli, Mercedes' own championship leader, described Ferrari's underlying pace directly. The Ferrari car is very reliable. Coming from a driver defending the points lead, that's not a compliment. It's a signal that Mercedes' own reliability issues, including Antonelli's Barcelona retirement with battery problems, are now being weighed against a Ferrari that rarely fails to finish. McLaren team principal Andrea Stella, who worked at Ferrari during the Michael Schumacher years, backed up the read on chassis performance without hedging. We see, especially in the medium-speed corners, that Ferrari is the fastest, not necessarily the fastest in the straights. Two independent voices from two separate rival teams arrived at the same conclusion in the same week. Ferrari's car is already good enough to win. The only unresolved variable going into the summer break is the engine sitting in that Maranello workshop. The mechanism behind Ferrari's development freedom is called ADUO, Additional Development and Upgrade Opportunities. It's F1's built-in competitive balance system for the new 2026 power unit regulations. The FIA measures every manufacturer's internal combustion engine against a benchmark. Fall between 2 and 4% behind that benchmark, and a manufacturer earns one upgrade token. Fall more than 4% behind, and it earns two. In a result that surprised much of the paddock, the FIA determined that Red Bull's power unit, not Mercedes, is this year's benchmark. Red Bull disputes that finding. Mercedes was assessed as more than 2% off the pace and received one upgrade token. Ferrari, Audi, and Honda were all measured more than 4% behind, qualifying each for two tokens, plus additional dyno hours and budget cap relief to fund the work. As Hamilton explained after the announcement, Red Bull have the most powerful engine, Mercedes second, and then we Ferrari are behind. We've got now these tokens to try to develop and close the gap, but that's like an 8 to 10-month project. The irony sits at the center of the story. Ferrari qualified for its tokens by being measured against Red Bull. But the team everyone in the paddock, media, rivals, and Ferrari itself, actually considers the true pacesetter is Mercedes. Ferrari is developing against one number while aiming the results squarely at a different opponent. The asymmetry matters just as much. Ferrari has two tokens and has used one, at Austria, described by Ferrari Power Unit Director Enrico Galtieri as not a major step that would not, on its own, change the competitive order. Mercedes had one token and, as of this point in the season, has not used it. One team is still climbing toward its ceiling. One team has stopped climbing. Ferrari's second and more significant ADUO upgrade centers on a redesigned turbocharger, targeted for introduction around the Dutch Grand Prix or Monza after the summer break. The impeller diameter will stay the same, but the number and angle of the internal blades will change, alongside new materials, a redesign aimed at changing how the power unit breathes under load. The two ADUO upgrades combined are reported to target roughly 30 horsepower in total gains. The stated internal goal isn't incremental improvement. It's genuine power parity with Mercedes. That distinction matters enormously for what it would mean on track. A Ferrari that only wins on favorable weekends is a story. A Ferrari that removes the one performance variable Mercedes has relied on all season, at every circuit, in every session, is a different story entirely. Norris made the stakes explicit in Barcelona. We're lucky that Ferrari don't have a better engine at the minute. If they had a better engine, they're dominating. He went further. If they make improvements on the engine side, then they'll embarrass everyone. Alongside the engine work, there are reports, not yet confirmed by Ferrari, of a high downforce aerodynamic package timed to land in the same post-brake window as the turbocharger. It's important to be clear about that status. This is reported, not confirmed. But it fits a pattern Ferrari has already demonstrated this season. The team brought an 8-part upgrade package to Barcelona in June that transformed its cornering performance almost overnight, and it introduced further updates at Monaco and again at Austria. If the Aero package and the turbocharger do land together, the logic is simple. Downforce lifts a car through corners. Engine power lifts it on straights. Combine genuine strength in both, and there's little room left for a rival to find an advantage anywhere on the lap. Ferrari team principal Fred Vasseur has described the team's broader development philosophy directly. I think the more performance you can bring at the beginning, that we are all in the same boat, that if we can bring something at the beginning, we do it. It's better to have a couple of tenths for 5 races than just a couple of tenths for the last 2. The post-summer break calendar opens at Zandvoort, followed by Monza, a circuit that punishes any straight-line power deficit more severely than almost anywhere else on the calendar. Monza is also Ferrari's home race, run in front of the Tifosi. If the engine gap has genuinely closed by that point, it would be visible on the team's own soil, on the track least forgiving of exactly the weakness Ferrari has spent the season trying to fix. The strategic logic behind the timing is straightforward. An engine upgrade introduced at this point in the calendar applies to every remaining race of the season, not just a single weekend. That's maximum leverage applied, with a maximum number of races still left to exploit it. It also explains why Ferrari hasn't rushed the turbocharger out earlier. Revealing it too soon would give Mercedes time to respond before the tokens deliver their full value. The waiting period itself functions as part of the strategy. The two races before the summer break, at Spa-Francorchamps and the Hungarian Grand Prix, function as a holding pattern. Neither race is expected to bring a decisive step from either team. Expect circuit-specific tweaks rather than fundamental changes. What matters in these two weekends isn't who wins. It's the margin between Ferrari and Mercedes on the current specification cars. Every tenth of a second Ferrari closes now, before the turbocharger even arrives, is a tenth it could be ahead by once it does. Mercedes' season has a second, quieter problem running alongside the engine story: reliability. Wolff admitted the team's issues have already cost it points. "You can't win a world championship with 3 retirements," he said after Antonelli's technical failure at Silverstone. Wolff put a number on it elsewhere in the same period. "We've lost 75 points due to reliability problems." Every Mercedes retirement is a set of points a faster Ferrari doesn't have to fight for. Reliability problems and a closing performance gap don't cancel each other out. They stack. The pressure has also spilled into public tension between the two team principals. After Ferrari's 4th major upgrade package of the season, Wolff questioned publicly how the team could afford it under F1's cost cap. "We're a little bit surprised that Ferrari can throw these huge updates at the car in the way they do. In my opinion, they need to be running out of cost cap money soon because we can't do that." Vasseur, visibly frustrated, responded at Silverstone. "When Red Bull is developing or when Mercedes is developing, they are genius. When we are developing, we are cheating. I think you have to calm down with this." Wolff later maintained the comment had been taken out of context, telling media the remark was misunderstood. Whatever the intent, the exchange is a sign of how seriously Mercedes is now taking Ferrari's development pace. The acknowledgement isn't limited to sniping over budgets. After Leclerc's Silverstone win, Wolff conceded directly. They were a strong competitor, and this is to be expected now for the rest of the season. Russell, who has spent the year defending Mercedes' advantage, offered his own honest assessment of the title fight's competitiveness after Silverstone, putting the fairness of his current points gap to Antonelli somewhere between 10 and 30 points. But the most striking confirmation still comes from outside both garages. Norris, driving for a rival team with nothing to gain by talking up Ferrari, delivered the starkest warning in the paddock this season. If they make improvements on the engine side, then they'll embarrass everyone. When a title-winning driver from a third team is the one sounding the alarm, it stops looking like narrative framing and starts looking like a genuine read of where the competitive order is heading. Ferrari's boldness this season extends beyond engine tokens. The team has run a rotating rear-wing system nicknamed the Macarena, a device that has to execute a precise, high-speed transformation on every lap, without failure, all season. It's a useful marker of mindset. A team protecting a comfortable points lead plays it safe. A team spending every available development margin on high-risk, high-reward engineering is a team that believes the title is still winnable. That same appetite for risk is now being pointed directly at the turbocharger and Aero program arriving after the break. Notably, it's a rival's version of a similar rotating rear wing concept, Red Bull's own Macarena wing, that has failed twice in recent races, contributing directly to Verstappen's British Grand Prix retirement and the closing of his own title window. Verstappen's absence from the title conversation is itself a reminder of how quickly dominance in this sport can evaporate. A driver with 4 consecutive championships now sits 7th, 78 points off second place, with a contract clause reportedly allowing him to explore his options after failing to reach the top 2 by the summer break. Whatever happens with Verstappen's future, his position is a marker of how much the competitive order has already shifted in 2026, and a reminder of exactly what Mercedes is trying to avoid becoming. None of this should be overstated. Mercedes still leads the Constructors' Championship by a comfortable 78 points. Ferrari has not won a championship, and Vasseur himself has repeatedly played down title talk, saying after Barcelona, "I said no," when asked whether Ferrari was suddenly back in the fight, and again the following week when the opposite question was asked. The Aero package many expect to arrive alongside the turbocharger remains reported, not confirmed. Ferrari's own power unit director has already cautioned that the Austrian upgrade was not, by itself, going to reorder the field. What's changed is not the scoreboard. It's the shape of what's coming. Mercedes has spent the season racing the car directly in front of it. After the summer break, for the first time all year, it may be racing a car it hasn't seen yet. one specifically engineered, using every legal development avenue available under F1's regulations, to erase the one advantage Mercedes has been able to count on since March. The next time these cars line up on a grid, the sport will find out whether a 25-point lead and a 78-point constructor's cushion can survive contact with a Ferrari built to close both gaps at once.